Every principle we discuss on Reset is built on experience, not theory, not something I read in a book, but something I've lived. For decades, I lived behind prison walls. People often ask me, David, what was the hardest part? Was it the bars, the violence, missing birthdays, holidays, funerals, and so many of life's milestones? Those things were painful. They left scars that never completely disappear. But they weren't the hardest part. The hardest part was standing in front of a mirror and believing that the man staring back at me was all I would ever become. Somewhere along the way, prison had become more than a place where I lived. It had become the way I saw myself. I stopped seeing possibilities and started believing the labels. I wasn't just incarcerated. I believed I was an inmate. I wasn't just serving a sentence. I believed my future had already been written. That's what happens when an environment becomes an identity. If you're not careful, what you experience begins to define who you believe you are. But over time, I discovered something that changed my life forever. The biggest prison isn't always built with steel and concrete. Sometimes it's built with beliefs. It's built with the lies we tell ourselves, the labels we've accepted, the mistakes we can't seem to let go of, and the voices that convinced us we'd never be anything more than our worst decisions. The day my thinking began to change, my future began to change. My circumstances didn't change overnight. The prison walls were still there. The sentence wasn't over. But something inside me was different. I began to see that while I couldn't immediately change where I was, I could change who I was becoming. That's the moment everything shifted. Not overnight, but permanently. And that's why Reset exists. Because every lasting transformation begins long before your circumstances change. It begins the moment you refuse to let your past become your identity. It begins the moment you decide that your greatest mistake will not have the final word. It begins when you stop seeing yourself through the lens of your failures and start seeing yourself through the lens of your potential. That's what Reset is all about. It's not about pretending the past didn't happen. It's about refusing to let the past decide your future.